but she's like, I'm really trying, and like, and I took her, and that entire school, I dedicated myself. She needed help, I made sure I was the first one there. Anytime she had struggled with a kid, needed some extra assistance for a student, I made sure I was the first one there. And so end of the year comes, and we're kind of giving everybody, the little, I guess, little certificates, little pats on the back for everybody, and we're writing it ourselves. We give it to whoever. And the principal gives out all the papers. So she gets up there, makes this speech about me, man, like, and it hit me in the heart. But like, I realized that I could have did something very different. I could have walked away from that situation. And I'm really like, and now our offices were next door. Like, I was right next to her classroom, so I had no excuse not to be the first one there. But even if I was somewhere else, I'd hit someone on the radio like, hey, I'm on my way. I got it. And but I'm glad. I'm really glad.
And that's what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So we can't change behavior of deep-rooted stuff, but we can. Mm-hmm. We can't, but we can, right? And I believe it's those long-term relationships that actually create that change, because I have to dig as deep as the root is to get to the tap root. Because if I don't get that tap root, that thing's going to come back at some point, right? So however long those relationships need to be, but I think it's important to have those relationships. And all too often, we either write folks off or we use policies and manuals to kind of dismiss people's opportunity to learn and grow. So if you turn to the next page in your stuff, I like to talk a lot about the law and the context of this stuff, right? So particularly in the United States, we need to talk about the Emancipation Proclamation. We need to talk about the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, all those things. And I try to make sure that it comes alive for the students that I work with, right? So that they have, so they understand the culture given the context. Context is extremely important. So just a couple of things to note. 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. 1920s, women get the right to vote. 1924, Native Americans become citizens of the United States. Problem, right? Already weird. 1964 Civil Rights Act, which means that the people who were freed in 1863 now get full access to goods, jobs, services, and money throughout the United States. 1978 Native Americans Freedom of Religion Act, which means that they can practice their religion without fear of going to jail or prison. And then 1990 ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, offered opportunities for people with disabilities to get access to goods, jobs, services, and money just like anybody else. So given that context, we're kind of in this strange relationship with the United States, right? So it loves us, but it treats us like Beauty and the Beast, which in my domestic violence work, this is the quintessential bad relationship of Beauty and the Beast. Right? So he gets turned into a beast because a woman says he's a monster. So he gets turned into this beast, and then he kidnaps this woman's father, and then exchanges her, and then begins this browbeating and imprisonment and all this kind of stuff. And so until the point that she succumbs to Stockholm Syndrome and figures out that she can love him and need him and blah, 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 blah. All of this is to say, particularly when we talk about the United States and we talk about our relationship as members, it's a complex deal, right? So all of us have come here in different ways as immigrants or as slaves or as refugees in some ways. And so our story is different. If you turn to the next page, I'll bring all these pieces together because I'm sure you're like, where is this all going or how does this connect? So right now we're in the season of intent. The law talks about impact versus intent. So if I tell a racist joke or I didn't mean to touch my coworker that way, the law doesn't make a differentiation between that. It says we're measuring the impact of your behavior. However, so that's the legal stuff. But for teachers and to encourage teaching and learning, We have to work on the intent versus the impact, right? Have you ever gotten a gift from somebody or apology from someone that had to give it to you? They were forced to give it to you. How did that feel? It didn't feel genuine. It didn't feel good, right? The same thing needs to happen in terms of teaching and learning. We have to hold our students accountable, but we have to make sure that our intent, what is in our heart, what is in our cup, what's in our mind, is coming out through our students. If not, we are committing what I refer to as evil. And evil is what splits the human soul. It is what crushes kids, right? And so when that breach between the body and the soul starts to happen, a void is formed. And without knowing what that void is, people will say, I feel empty, or I have a hole in my life. I'm trying to find myself. These are the kinds of words that people use to do that. And particularly with middle school kids, what they'll do is they'll turn to themselves to try to fill this void if there aren't caring adults trying to help them understand what that void is. And so they end up buying stuff. They end up doing stuff like falling into peer groups that aren't necessarily going to where they're going. They do suicide. They drink. They have sex at an early age. They're promiscuous. They do all of these things because capitalism says that if you do these things, they will fill the void. If you drink, you'll be so happy that your void will be filled. But what we know is that evaporates, right? That doesn't fill the void. Or if you buy these clothes, if you look like American Apparel, then everybody will love you. Buy Abercrombie & Fitch, and everybody will love you. But the more they buy, the more they consume without addressing the void itself, it actually creates a worse thing for them. And so some of the things that we need to do as teachers, helping them to learn more effectively, is to engage them in practices that show them how they produce things themselves, right? So we talk about kids and technology, but typically we're talking about kids digesting technology as opposed to producing technology, right? When students start to learn that they can make things, they can do things, they have power, service learning is extremely important because it shows kids that they can do some things. They can make things happen themselves as opposed to being consumers all the time. And so there's the human soul, the bear. Yes, ma'am.
How much though is a breakdown in the family? Because like I said, being in, I grew up, and it was embedded in me that education is the only thing that no one can take away from you, and this is how you will succeed in life.
Yep.
Used to be a saying, the most dangerous thing is an educated black man. This is back in the 60s, and how and I don't know how it was lost, because I don't live it, and I keep it embedded in my children. I have children who are educators, and what happened? I don't know what happened. That,
I would tell you.
In the black culture, we went from, there was slavery, but we survived it. Yes,
I will tell you what happened.
We survived.
I will tell you what happened.
Keep pushing for it.
Capitalism happened. When
But how does it? What does it have to do with as a family?
It has everything to do with it, right? Because context is everything. My dad was a Black Panther, and he was fighting for rights, and then they gave him a job, a really good job. Then fighting for the cause became secondary, right? So when people have a foot on their neck, they have much more, they're compelled to do something about this foot that's on their neck. When the foot is removed from their neck and things are a lot more comfortable, why would I? I look at Jersey Shore. They're not educated, and they're making millions.
I don't understand.
Right? They're doing.
I don't know.
What I was going to say,
Thank you so much.
Are you familiar with Sir Ken Robinson? Ken Robinson. Are you familiar with Ken
No.
Robinson? Yes, okay. So he does this presentation where he speaks on just that. Like you have children who are seeing, when they're being told that education is important these days. For some people, but then all around them they're seeing these things that they're seeing people. Listen, I went to one of the top art schools in the country. Most of the folks who dropped out freshman year were making ridiculous amount of money with like a year worth of college. And then I have friends who finish and are successful, and then I have friends who didn't finish and who are extremely successful. And then I have folks who have all of these degrees who can't get jobs. And it's like, so you're in a world where you're seeing more and more that even when I have this, I'm still struggling. I'm still trying to, it's still a challenge for me. Like wealthiest person in my family doesn't has a 6th grade education. So like as a kid seeing that and knowing that like they're living the life. But I'm not saying this is an excuse. I'm not saying this is an excuse. But what I'm saying is the context. It's like the world I'm in is showing me that I don't necessarily need this to succeed. So
last 20 minutes.
Why
Have fun.
I want to buy into
I'll get back in 5.
Especially when I go there and I feel like the people who are there don't care about, like there's no genuine care. Like for instance, so I was talking to someone earlier. I'm a student advocate at my school, and I roughly see in a month somewhere between 170 and 200 kids will sign up just to speak to me. Whether it's to come to me for supplies, they've been put out of class, or they're just personal that they don't have a good relationship with their teachers, so they feel more comfortable with me. And it's really that care factor. So if I'm coming into a building where all of these people tell me all the time that they care, but they don't actually see it, it's that buy-in. They're not buying into it. And so more and more people, and then you got hip hop artists as well. And I'm a hip hop artist myself outside of the education piece. But then you have a large amount of people who are seeing success they're going, they have non-traditional methods of achieving success. And it's starting to happen more and more. And so,
But I think that's a capitalist trick, actually. I agree with you, because there aren't a lot of people achieving success. My son, has all these friends who are going to make it in hip-hop or they're going to make it in the NBA. They ain't. And they're going to become 30 years old, and they've been doing these little shows, and where are they at? Yeah. So it's an illusion that that's an avenue for success.
So here is the ultimate illusion, right? So we believe in this thing called the middle class. We believe that there are middle class values. We believe that there are middle class. There is this thing called the middle class. Well, I was taught that a ruler is 12 inches. So half the ruler should be 6 inches. There are 29,000 people in the United States who make $1 trillion or more. So if 12 inches is a foot and half of that is 6, where is the middle class? $500 million. Do you know anybody who makes $500 million? So when we talk about this middle class, what are we really talking about? Right? When we talk, so here's some of the barriers to people understanding their humanity. One is historical trauma. Particularly for Native Americans, we talk about this concept of historical trauma, but I think this happens for more than just Native Americans. And I want you to put this picture in your mind. Imagine your car is stolen. You go to the police and you say, my car is stolen, and they do what they do, which is write a report. So they write a report, and then you come back home from writing this report with the police, and your car is in your neighbor's driveway. What's your next recourse?
Next door.
I'm going to go across the street, talk to my neighbor, and say, you got my car. My neighbor's going to say, no, I don't have your car. It's my car. They're like, wait a minute, what do you mean it's your car? It was mine this afternoon, and now tonight it's your car? Yes, it's my car. So then you call the police again. They come take a report. You go to court. What if the judge says, you know what, your statute of limitations on that car is up. This car now belongs to them. Now, this is your neighbor. This is somebody you got to look at every day, and you see your car sitting in their driveway knowing they stole it from you. Now the neighborhood is going to have a car show. So the neighbor comes across the street to you and says, you know what, I want you to help me polish this car up so that I can show it in the car show. How do you feel about the car show?
That's awesome.
I don't want no parts of the car show, right?